Wonderful, the stuff for which movies were made. Adventure, to make you wonder if it's true, while your eyes convince you that it is.
King Kong is a 1933 American pre-code monster adventure film directed and produced by Marion C. Cooper and Ernest B. Schoedsack. The screenplay by James Ashmore Creelman and Ruth Rose was developed from an idea conceived by Cooper and Edgar Wallace. It stars Fay Wray, Bruce Cabot, and Robert Armstrong. It has been ranked by Rotten Tomatoes as the greatest horror film of all time and the 33rd greatest film of all time. The film tells of a huge ape-like creature dubbed Kong who perishes in an attempt to possess a beautiful young woman, Ray. King Kong is especially noted for its stop-motion animation by Willis O'Brien and a groundbreaking musical score by Max Steiner. In 1991, it was deemed culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant and selected for preservation in the National Film Registry. A sequel quickly followed with The Son of Kong, also released in 1933, with several more films made in the following decades. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Data East. Data East Corporation, also abbreviated as DECO, was a Japanese video game and electronic engineering company. The company was in operation from 1976 to 2003 and released 150 video game titles. Data East made pinball machines from 1987 through 1994 and included innovations such as the first pinball to have stereo sound, Laser War, the first usage of a small dot matrix display in Checkpoint, along with the first usage of a big DMD in Maverick. In designing pinball machines, they showed a strong preference for using high-profile but expensive licensed properties, which did not help the financial difficulties the company began experiencing from 1990 on. Some of the properties that Data East licensed for its pinball machines included Guns N' Roses, Star Wars, Back to the Future, Batman, RoboCop, The Simpsons, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The pinball division was created in 1985 by purchasing the pinball division of Stern Electronics and its factory and assets. Amidst plummeting sales across the entire pinball market, Data East chose to exit the pinball business and sold the factory to Sega in 1994. At the time of the buyout by Sega, Data East Pinball was the world's second largest pinball manufacturer, holding 25% of the market. Although all of Data East pinball games were developed in the United States, several were released in Japan by the parent company. King Kong was not one of them. In 1990, this extremely rare prototype machine by Data East never made it into full production. For business reasons, the game was abandoned, leaving the 9 prototype units as the only machines assembled. Eventually, all 9 of the machines would make their way into private ownership. King Kong would have been the first production MPU version 3 game, but instead that honor would go to Back to the Future later in 1990. Many aspects of the game remain unfinished, and if you ever find one, it may be different from another one. That's assuming you ever see one to begin with, which would be extremely unlikely. The back glass has some cool secrets built in. First, we see that Kong is on the then Sears Tower in downtown Chicago. We all know that King Kong typically likes to climb a famous building in New York City, but as Chicago was and is today the historic home of the pinball industry, the artist decided to put him in Chicago instead. The seemingly innocent planes firing at Kong in the photo are actually inspired by a then extremely popular toy by Hasbro called the Cobra Condor, which was released in 1989. Had kids walked up to this game in an arcade in 1990 as intended, they would have recognized the planes. But the kids never saw the game, and neither did anyone else. King Kong was not meant to be, and Data East moved on to the next generation of MPU-3 powered pinball machines. About 6 years ago, Pinside user Sesh Pilot wrote this about the game. This game was never released, but exists in the form of 9 prototypes. Here's the tricky part. Each of the prototypes are a little different from one another, so depending on which version you play, you might have a completely different playing game. For example, at least one of the prototypes used the larger Kong flippers on the bottom of the playfield. Another has an up kicker in the spot where others have a ramp. So which version am I rating? Today I was honored to play several games on prototype number 9 of 9, which means that it is the most current version they made, the closest to being to market. Overall, the theme is boss. This game is a standard non-DMD Data East game. It's alphanumeric, which means that it was released before the King Kong movie remake, which may be why the game wasn't released, not a popular license at the time. The back glass is killer, the artwork gorgeous, and the sound superb. Way to go, Brian Schmidt. As is typical with most Data East games, the stereo separation is fantastic and the musical score is really good. The game has 3 flippers, 2 regular ones at the bottom and an oversized Kong flipper top right. There's a skill shot that is very similar to Whirlwind in that you're trying to hit the target that's flashing on the left. The rules were very close to being finished, but definitely needed some final tweaking. Same with the layout. There are several places on the playfield where the ball slows too much or gets stuck or just the shot doesn't feel quite right. For instance, the ramp at the back of the game has a brutally steep incline. Too steep. The slings have Kong on them and react in the same way that Elvira and the Party Monster slingshots do. Probably the coolest thing about the game though is that when you smack the ball up the ramp, it locks into a cannon. Remember, this is pre-T2, that you shoot at just the right time to lock King Kong in a cage on the other side of the playfield. Very cool feature that must be timed right for the maximum bonus score. Overall, it's not the deepest game, but really should have been finished. I mean, they were so close. The game I played was purchased from Mike Pasick for around $4,500. Definitely a steal of a deal. How Mike got the game, I'll never know, but apparently he was selling a few of them at the time. If you get the chance to play the game, give it a go. It's not a top 100 game for sure, but definitely is a decent player that has some great sounds, great artwork, a cool theme, and some fun gimmicks. King Kong, the 8th wonder of the world. Thank you guys so much for watching Season 2, Episode 1 of The Lost Pins. We're back. We're going to be going crazy and hardcore at this thing again. I found a whole bunch more things I want to make reports about, so get ready for it. Like, subscribe, comment. Thank you guys so much for watching. Captain out.
Kong, the 8th wonder of the world! Missiles out! Make the loop!